All right, guys, welcome back to the Eight Limbs podcast. Special guest today, we have Mitch Aguiar. Mitch is a former Navy SEAL, professional MMA fighter, and seven-figure supplement entrepreneur. Mitch is the owner of Massive Supplements, Violent Hippie, and also Adopt a Cop BJJ. Mitch is someone that I got a chance to meet just once in my life at the Jake Paul fight here in Tampa, but I've been able to follow his social media, and incredibly inspiring guy when it comes to just discipline, work ethic, and overall just being a rough, rugged dude all around. He's a guy's guy. Looking really forward for you guys hearing from him today. Mitch, so happy to have you, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it.
So right off the bat, I want you to kind of tell everybody who you are real quick. So if you guys don't know, you should definitely follow his content. But Mitch, tell us about who you are and what you've done.
Okay. Well, yeah, like you said, name's Mitch Aguiar. 34 years old, just turned 34, from Virginia Beach, Virginia. Was a former Navy SEAL, joined in 2008, got out in 2018, so did 10 years in the Navy, all of them in the SEAL teams. Did several deployments, got out, and started pursuing, I started pursuing MMA while I was active duty in the military, and then ended up becoming ranked number one on the East Coast in two different weight classes. But I was just kind of fighting just as a hobby for fun on the side, and started gaining some success in that, and started looking at possibly, pursuing a professional MMA career. And then had my social media. I started an Instagram as a way to give back to my sponsors, and that turned into a decent sized following, which turned into essentially turned into a customer base, for I started selling fight shirts to support my my fighting, and had my sponsors on the back and all that. And that turned into an apparel line with Massive Apparel. And Massive stands for Mitch Aguiar Smash and Frogs. Smash and Frog was my fighter name. I actually have, I'm actually using it as a little prop here, but this was my logo.
I love that.
Here. One of my followers made this for me years ago, which is pretty cool. And, but anyway, turned into a brand, Massive Apparel, and then that evolved into Massive Supplements. Started selling my greens initially, which my following named the Smashin' Greens, because I was the Smashin' Frog. And I used a bunch of different organic superfoods in a fasting routine to cut weight for my fights. And that's kind of how that all developed into the Smashin' Greens. And then that turned into a whole supplement line. The company kind of blew up, seemingly overnight once the supplements were introduced. And then, it's been a wild ride from there, and lots of ups and downs, crazy stuff with entrepreneurship, and then fast forward a little bit, ended up going or starting a Violent Hippie as another company. It initially was kind of just one of our shirts for Massive Apparel, and I was like, man, I really like this. Like, I feel like this could be its own separate spin-off brand or whatever. So ended up making that its own separate, company. And we do t-shirts and USDA certified organic CBD oil, and then
I've got some of that at the house. I definitely use it.
Yeah, it's good stuff. Everything, all of our products, I never intended on owning any businesses or anything like that. I actually intended on just being in the SEAL teams for 20 years, but, I kind of just go with the flow, and, where I want to go, where my passion's leading me. And
life had other plans for you.
Yeah, just led me down this path, and hey, let's go with it. But So I've never spent any money really on advertising until like literally 2 months ago. We just hired a digital ad agency for the first time, and we're trying to do traditional marketing. But up till now, we've only just solely relied on social media and stuff like that to promote our products, and my philosophy has always been just put as much money into making the highest quality product you can, and it'll sell itself essentially, and go off word of mouth. And word of mouth is, in my opinion, it's the best
It's huge.
market you can't buy. So
It's
um,
huge. I agree. So yeah, well, I don't want to get on to all that at once. I definitely want to talk to you about something that everyone's so excited about, which is the seals. Like you see guys like David Goggins with his book, and you see people understanding now like what that means, like how elite of a separator that is amongst people. And so, as you know, I'm a jiu-jitsu black belt. It's actually my black belt diploma right over here on the wall. It's something I'm very proud of, and it was incredibly hard for me to achieve that. It took me 12 years. And that's something that's in a very elite group in itself, but that doesn't even compare to what it takes to become a Navy SEAL. So, like, what did that take of you? Go fast, rewind all the way back to when you were like, okay, I'm going to do this, and then all of a sudden you start Navy SEAL training and rolling into Hell Week. Like, were you mentally prepared for what that was going to take of you, or was it one of those things that you're just like, I'm not going to let this break me?
I think, yeah, I honestly, I didn't even know what a Navy SEAL was when I signed up. I didn't know anything. I didn't know I had to go to Buds. I didn't know what Buds was. Um, I was literally just bored, and I had just graduated high school, and it was funny. All my friends at the time were talking about going into the military, and I was like the only one that was like, nah, that's not really for me. I don't want to. I don't ever see myself in the military. It's funny. My mom and my dad and my stepdad, they were all in the military, and my dad always encouraged me. Yeah, you should join the military. You should join the military, and I just wanted nothing to do with it. It didn't sound appealing to me at all, and I was kind of like, free spirit, happy go lucky, whatever. I wasn't militant at all, and then right after graduated high school, I was just kind of bored. I was living in Ohio at the time, and real small town, not much going on, and um, Navy recruiter had come in and into the place I worked. I actually worked at my mom and my stepdad owned a little deli, and a Navy recruiter came in there and was like, "Hey, you want to join the military, the Navy?" And I was like, "Why not? I'm bored, and if anything, it'd be 4 years and it's life experience, go see the world or something." And
Yeah.
he was, "Oh, you look like you're in good shape. You wanna be a SEAL? You want to join the SEALs?" And I was like, I didn't really know what it was. And my mom was like, "Yeah, Mitch, if I saw you in the military at all, it would be a Navy SEAL. Like they're like the rock stars of the military." And I was like, "Okay." So I
So just like, yeah, I'll do it.
yeah, and it's funny. I called my dad and I was like, "Hey, Dad, I just signed up for the Navy. I'm going to be a SEAL." And he's like, "You have any idea what you just signed up for?"
Yeah. Like, what do you
And
want?
I was, I'm like, "Yeah, $40,000 sign on bonus." And he's like, "You
Yeah.
have to go to Buds." And I was like, "What's that?" Like I had no
Yeah.
idea. And my dad was a combat, he was a combat photographer.
Just lost the connection there for a moment.
Still
You're
alive?
back. Yeah, you're
Okay.
back. That was a combat photographer.
Yeah, my dad was a combat photographer, and he was attached with the SEAL team, so he knew very well, like intimately, all about it and everything. And I had no interest in, like, growing up. He was in the military, and he had, always had bags with like scuba gear, and I know he jumped out of planes and all this stuff, but I didn't know really what he did. I was just like, oh, okay, my dad's a soldier. he's been to Iraq and he's done this and that. It's like, I don't know. I didn't really care, but
Right.
yeah. And then so it was funny. My dad, he bought me the Buds Discovery Channel Buds Class 234 documentary.
And you
I'm
watched
sure
it before?
no, I had never seen it. And
But you watched it before you went in?
yeah.
Just to be like, what the hell am I getting myself into?
Well, it's funny. Literally my first like introduction to like Navy SEAL anything was I watched the movie Navy SEALs with Charlie Sheen.
Old
And
school movie. Now, I've seen
yeah,
a video of Jocko Willink breaking that down and saying like how inaccurate it is to what it's like. He was like, I remember him
yeah,
watching.
it's totally inaccurate. But
It was like he breaks down fight scenes and movies and like military scenes, and he's like, "Yeah, that doesn't happen like that." And then sometimes like, "Yeah, it actually is kind of what would happen there," you know?
well, yeah, I mean, I don't know, I haven't seen it. And but when I watched Navy SEALs at the time, there's like a 2 minute, if that, maybe even less, scene where the dude's walking the chick around and there's these guys like crawling and like the mud under barbed wire in the woods, and there's explosions going on, and there's like a helicopter coming around and guys are spy rigging and all this shit, and he's like, yeah, this is Buds, it's 90% of them won't make it or something, whatever he says. And I'm like, oh snap, that looks crazy. Like, I guess that's Bud. I'm like, I guess that's Buds. And yeah, it
Yeah.
was
So when
funny.
you went into Buds, like, I guess your preconceived notion prior to going in, and then you actually getting there, and then like when you got to Hell Week, like, were you expecting what it was going to be, or was it
Well,
what was it like?
so that was my first introduction to Buds or Navy SEAL anything, and so obviously that movie is wildly inaccurate, and then my dad got me the Discovery Channel Buds Class 234 documentary, and I was like, oh, okay, like this is an actual documentary on actual Buds and what to expect. And it's obviously an extremely sugar coated version of what is to be expected, but I mean, the entire documentary is six hours long. Buds is 8 months long, and so that gave me a much better idea of kind of what to expect. And the bulk of the documentary is just on first phase and Hell Week, and then like the last 2 hours are second and third phase. But so it really like put a whole new like perspective of what to expect. And at the time I had never run further than a mile in my life, so I was an athlete, but I was more with basketball, football, lacrosse. I was like a fast twitch sprinting type athlete, explosive, never did any kind of long distance anything. I looked at the cross country people like they were crazy. I never swam other than just like in a pool with friends and stuff and at the beach. Nothing like any kind of endurance stuff. So watching the documentaries and stuff, and they're running 4 miles in boots and pants in the sand and stuff, and I was just like, holy shit, this is gonna be crazy. And
Yeah.
but I had already like told all these people and all my friends and family like that I signed up to be a SEAL, and so I'm gonna do it. And yeah, we watched the documentary. I watched it with my dad, and he was like, so what do you think? And I was like, guess I'm gonna be a SEAL, like, and I was like definitely nervous because I was just
Yeah,
like,
sure.
wow, I really bit off more than I could chew, like I had no idea what I was getting into. And so, but I was just like, yeah, it is what it is. I'm gonna just give
What
it my
was
best
Hell
shot.
Week like for you? Was it as brutal as described?
So Hell Week, like I said, the bulk of that documentary is about first phase and Hell Week. And so then Hell Week, for those of you that don't know, I'm sure everyone does. It's you start on Sunday afternoon,
5 days,
and
right?
you don't.
Have another connection issue. You're back.
Okay. So for those of you who don't know, I'm sure you do, Hell Week, you start on Sunday afternoon and you don't finish until Friday afternoon. And you don't sleep that entire time other than you get a 1 hour nap on Wednesday and a 1 hour nap on Thursday. So other than that, or I'm sorry, I think it's a 2 hour nap on Wednesday and a 2 hour nap on Thursday. Or no, yeah, 2 hour nap on Wednesday, 1 hour nap on Thursday. So
Okay.
it's
You're little.
very, very little, the minimal. So, and you run well over 100 miles during the week. You're wet, cold, and sandy the entire week. You're running around everywhere you go with a giant inflatable, very heavy boat on your head, and it's bouncing on your head and compressing your spine, and it's very brutal. It's a very brutal training.
Is the purpose of that is to test mental toughness and physical ability, or is it actually to actually train you? But is it more just like, hey, let's weed out the
No,
weed?
yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's to rid the weak, and it's a selection process. It's meant to push out anyone who is willing to give up when things get extremely difficult and hard. They want the people that are willing to push themselves to the absolute limit and die if possible or if necessary to continue the mission and keep going. So once
Yeah.
that process is done and they're left with those people who are absolutely willing and have that kind of heart and dedication and mindset, then those are the people then they pursue forward with teaching the actual skills of being an operator. And you can teach anyone how to shoot. You can teach anyone how to skydive. You can teach anyone how to jump out of plane, or scuba dive. You can teach anyone how to build a bomb. You can teach anyone how to do any of these things. You cannot teach heart. You cannot teach that iron will. You cannot teach any of those things. So the only way to see who has that is to put them through hell, and who's left.
What was the state? What kind of state were you in? When you got out? Like, I remember my nephew is a SEAL. I think we talked about Jeff knew him, and this may be TMI, but as soon as it was over, he sent me and his father a picture of his like inner thighs and scrotum, and it was just like hamburger meat. It was just so raw, bloody, chafed. I mean, the state that he was just thinking about that, and that was just one area, like the bottom of his glutes and his scrotum and his inner thighs from just the running and the sand and the friction. But like, what kind of state were you in afterwards? Were you just like, holy shit, it's over, or did you have any like,
So
what?
it's funny, I after watching that documentary and realizing what I was in for, I was like, holy shit, I became obsessed with Hell Week. And I had to train. I was in Bud's prep for 3 months. Then I went to like Indoc and Indoc some or PTRRs 2 weeks, then Indocs a month long. Then I got rolled back for like an admin thing. And I didn't end up going through Hell Week for months after I had been in the Navy. You also have to go through boot camp and all that stuff. So, I mean, I had almost, I would say, like a solid year of from when I found out that I had to go through it to the time I actually went through it. And
Okay.
and again, I was just obsessed with the thought of Hell Week and getting through it and doing it. And
Yeah,
and
I can
that
see that being something just like hanging over the head. You're like, can I just fucking do this already? Like, I'm done talking about it.
yeah, and it wasn't even can I just do it already? It was it was like a a goal out in front of me that I knew I was going to have to do inevitably. So it kind of, I put my mindset just like, okay, I need to just train and I need to just be willing to do whatever the fuck it takes, like
Yeah.
my
Right.
my mindset was, no matter how hard whatever I'm doing right now, this is not Hell Week. So if I can't endure what I'm going through right now, how in the fuck am I ever going to get through Hell Week? And that was the mindset I had, to just keep going and just keep pushing myself. Cause it was like, yes, you're tired right now, but if you're tired now, there's no way you're going to make it through Hell Week. So you better fucking keep going, And that was, I just became obsessed with Hell Week and getting through Hell Week. That's all I thought about. And, everything I did, I was just like, well, this is not Hell Week. This isn't Hell Week. You got to keep, pushing. Like, don't be a pussy. Don't be a pussy, and,
I do that
like,
with myself too. That inner talk works so well for me. It does. Like when I'm doing something that's hard, like right away, I'm like my hard now is like long road bike rides. But like the inner banter is that same thing. I'm like, don't be a bitch, don't be a little bitch, don't be a little bitch. Like I just repeatedly just like bash myself.
yeah.
So you
So,
get into it and you're in the middle of Hell Week. And what was it like
so
when you're just like, okay, this is what this is for me now?
I'll tell you. So when I got to, I'll set that up because it's important. So, going through all the shit previous, like boot camp it was all so annoying to me because I just wanted to get to buds and I just Hell Week. I was so obsessed with it. Like that's all I cared about. It's all I thought about. It's all I
Yeah.
really wanted to do Hell Week more than I wanted to be a SEAL. I didn't really care about being a SEAL. I had just said I was going to be a SEAL, as like a goal I had set. But again, I didn't know what a SEAL was. I didn't ever like want to be a SEAL growing up. This wasn't a lifetime goal. It was something that I said I was going to do. Then I realized, I realized that I didn't know what the hell I signed up for. And people were doubting me, like everyone was doubting that I was going to be able to do it. And then once I found out what the fuck it was, I was sort of like doubting myself, but I wanted to prove myself that I could do it. And Hell Week just seemed to be this crazy thing. So it was like, you know what? I'm gonna fucking try my best. And
Right.
I wasn't 100% sure that I was gonna make it. I was just 100% sure that I was gonna try my best. And so I go through first phase and have that same mindset, of just everything we're doing. I'm like, this isn't Hell Week. This isn't Hell Week. So don't fucking give up. All the log PTs, the boats on heads, the runs, the swims, the beat downs, everything was just in my head. I'm like, well, this isn't Hell Week. So, this isn't Hell Week. So, don't be a pussy. Just keep going. And then fast forward up to Hell Week, like getting ready to start Hell Week. And I think at that point, even like my dad was just shocked that I was still there, maybe. And, and I remember I remember hanging out, at Bud's on Sunday morning, waiting for Hell Week to start and kick off. And I talked to my dad on the phone and I was like, here we go. Like Hell Week starting today. It's fucking crazy. Like I've been training for
Here.
this and like thinking about it and obsessing over it for, almost a year. And like it's about to fucking happen. And my dad was like, all right, well, you know, good luck. I'm proud of you. And like, don't call me. I don't want to hear, or I don't want to get a phone call till Friday. And I just want you to say, Dad, I made it. And I was like, all right. And I was like, here we go. And hung up and I just like waited. I was so fucking nervous and like just amped up. I had no idea what to expect. I had built this up in my head so much that it was just, surreal. I just didn't know what the hell to expect. I thought Satan was going to like pop out of the ground and,
Yeah.
just lead fucking a beat down and,
Yeah.
just shit out of me. I had no idea, and it was just unrealistic what I had in my head, I guess. And the moment like they start shooting the fucking, the machine gun blanks in the air and they're throwing sim grenades in there and Hell Week, breakout starts and Hell Week kicks off. And I'm just like, oh my God, it's happening. And they're like, hit the surf. And I go hit the surf and come back and I'm bear crawling on the grinder and there's all this chaos going on. And I'm looking around and they're spraying everyone with hoses and it's just fucking, what is just chaos. But then I'm like looking around and like the flash, the muzzle flash from the machine guns going off, you see like, oh, these are just the same instructors that have been beating my ass for 2 months, and they're just having us do push-ups and hit the surf and all the same exact shit we've been doing for months now, like
You just get sleep. So it's just the sleep factor, right?
So I was like, oh, so it's the same exact shit we've been doing. It's just, this is just one long evolution. And it literally took me like 4 minutes into Hell Week, of like kind of just that initial, what's going on? And then like kind of just realizing, oh, this is just the same shit. And then I was, oh, fuck. And I just started like cracking up in my head. And I just had the biggest goddamn smile on my face because I knew right then and there was no fucking way that I was going to quit. And I knew in 4 minutes of starting Hell Week, I was like, I'm going to fucking crush this. And I mean, I was so excited and fired up that I literally like did not stop smiling and, was just so fucking amped up and charged up and ready to go. Like I did not stop smiling the whole fucking week, just about. And
the violent hippie was born.
It was funny because we did the first thing. I remember the first thing we did right after the breakout was we put the boats on our heads and we got we went onto the beach and we started running. We started running south towards like Tijuana, and we're running on the beach. And I remember and being in our boat crew, and we were just right behind the instructor, and the instructor was jogging in front of us, and we just kept fucking charging right behind him. And it was funny. We had an agreement or whatever in our boat crew that if someone yelled out 10, like and started counting backwards, like 10, 9, 8, 7, and then we would just fucking give it our all, and like just sprint and basically you can do anything for 10 seconds, and we were just like hauling ass. And I remember just being like so amped up. I was just like 10, 9, just like on repeat, but we ended up, I remember we ran like 2 miles or something. And we were right on the instructor's ass that whole time. And then the instructor turned around and looked, and we were the only boat crew with him. The rest of the entire class was back like easily a mile behind us. And it like, this was the first thing we did. So Hell Week had only been going for, 30 minutes or 45 minutes or something. And he turned around and he stopped us and he was like, what the fuck? And he's like, well, shit. He's like, it's too early to secure you. So stand at extended arm. So we just like stood there at extended arm with the boats, like holding them up. And we waited for the class to join us.
Break you guys.
Huh?
He just wants to break you guys.
Well, I
Like he
mean,
was
he was,
like, all right, let's add some other hard shit. He's like, damn, you guys, why are you
well,
doing
like,
so well? Do
you
some
can
harder
tell,
shit.
you can tell that the buds instructors, their whole job, they're gatekeepers. Their whole job is to be gatekeepers to the SEAL teams. They are to stop and weed out fucking pussies, and just they do not like that weakness. And that's such an important, it's such an important job. And their job is to hold the standard and rid the weak from entering the SEAL teams, right? So they like it when a guy or a boat crew is just fucking giving it their all. They're not supposed to like be your friend or anything, but you can tell that's what the fuck they're looking for, and they
They're like,
encourage
you're gonna
that.
make me look good when you make it through, and I produced you guys.
They encourage that fucking warrior mindset, that mental toughness, that hardness. So they, that's why everything they say, it pays to be a winner. They
Yeah.
reward winning, they reward people that are putting out. So that's why he was saying, like normal, like throughout Hell Week you'll do races and stuff like that with other boat crews and people to and the winners will get a little bit of a break, like they'll get to sit down for 10 minutes and just relax while the rest of the class is getting punished. So it
So
pays to be a winner. So that's what he was saying. He was like, well, we just started, so I can't really secure you guys. So he's like, just stand there at extended arm. So he had to stand there with the boats extended and wait for the rest of the class to join us. But they were literally so far behind, and the majority of the class was just, pacing themselves. So they're all going at a fucking snail's pace, trying to save their energy because they know it's Hell Week. You're gonna be there all week. But dude, honestly, I was so fucking amped up that I was just
did you
ready
ever
to.
get to the crash point and be like, okay, I don't have any energy left?
I was ready to sprint the whole fucking week, and no, man, I swear to
Wow.
you, dude. One like Hell Week was one of, if not like the best week of my life, because
Just feeling alive. Yeah.
it was just this monumental task or challenge that I had put so much focus and energy on achieving and getting through. And when it was actually there, and I was actually doing it, and like I said, 4 minutes in, I knew without a doubt that I was going to fucking crush it. And that just put my mindset on a different level. And, I was just able to just absolutely fucking crush it. And I did, man. Like I
I love
felt
that.
the whole week, I didn't fucking feel tired. I didn't feel anything. I just fucking was on such a high. Like I just crushed it, man. And I felt amazing the whole fucking time. And at the end of Hell Week like I just couldn't wait. I could not fucking wait to get secured, get my brown shirt, and call my dad.
Yeah.
And
Called the dad, like, I fucking made it.
yeah, and I remember
Yeah.
I called my dad. I got my brown shirt and got my big 64-ounce Gatorade, and they give you at the end of Hell Week, you get your brown T-shirt with your name stamped on it. That's like you go from a white shirt to a brown shirt, and that symbolizes that you made it through Hell Week. And so I could not fucking wait to put my brown shirt on, and they give you a whole pizza and a 64-ounce Gatorade. So I got my Gatorade and my pizza, and I felt totally fine. Like I didn't feel anything. I felt fine. I felt great. And I went, picked that up, and then I called my dad, and I said, and I knew that he figured I had made it because I hadn't talked to anybody all week, and nobody heard from me. So it's either I quit and just didn't say anything all week, or
Right.
I made it,
Right.
and I called him on Friday, and I said, Dad, I made it. And he just like went, yeah, like great job, like was so
That's so
fucking
awesome.
like
What a cool
excited.
moment.
Dude, yeah, for sure. And I was just like, man, this was awesome, you know. And then I started eating my pizza and just fell asleep in my
Oh, so
pizza.
that's what I was waiting on. Like, you had to have crashed eventually, but yeah,
Yeah,
dude.
I
One
just fell
question I
asleep.
have, Mitch, I got to ask because I didn't want to skip past it during that, but I didn't want to cut you off either. Is what was it like when you're in the Navy? And I think for me, when I've gone through and seen all that, the part that I think would be the most challenging is the someone just completely like punk bitching you, like screaming at you. I've seen all the documentaries. I've seen it before. I follow some guys on Instagram who do the drill instruction shit now. They're Navy SEALs. I forget one of them, like Ray something. I don't know if you
Ray
know who I'm
Cap.
talking about. Yes, dude. And it's like, guy's a badass. I love watching him on podcasts, but when I watch him punk bitch these guys at these fitness boot camps, I'm like, oh my God, dude. Like, how hard is it to take that when
So
you're in that position?
it was not hard at all for me from SEALs because I respected SEAL. I truly like respected
Good point.
SEALs because I, not so much that they were. I just knew from up to just what I had already experienced, and then knowing that these guys had already been through Hell Week 1, and then they had already like then obviously once I spent a lot of time in boot camp, in buds prep, in buds, all of that, like I learned so much more about Navy SEALs, and I learned so much more from all these guys. Everyone I was there with had wanted to be a SEAL their whole life, and they've read all the books. They've done so much more research than I did. I had no fucking clue about so
True,
I'm
true.
learning as it goes on, and I was just like, wow, like I looked at Navy SEALs like they were larger than life, like they were superheroes or some shit, like they were just different, and being gone through Hell Week and all this stuff and all the missions that I read about, or not heard, I didn't read much about it, but heard about, and all this shit, they were kind of just like legends to me, like, wow, this dude is fucking, he's a real life Navy SEAL. He's fucking different. And so it didn't
So it's
bother me.
easier to tolerate when you're like, hey, I respect you.
Yeah, it wasn't even tolerating. It was just like, you know, it didn't bother me at all to like,
It's awesome.
be kind of like just I really respected the fact that I was walking in their footsteps, like
Yeah.
I'm walking the path that they've already walked. And you know there's not only a standard, but it's like a fucking rite of passage, and like I respected that. And it was like, no, I have to pay the same dues that you did, you know
Mm.
so and no one just waltzed through here, all fucking patty cake and coddling and shit. It was, no, these motherfuckers went through the same brutal shit that I'm experiencing now, and they fucking crushed it and endured it or whatever, and they're on the other side of it. So like, got to pay your dues, and I respected that. So it was not a
I
problem
love it.
at all for me. The problem I had more so was other uh other people in my shoes, like that would act a certain way or something like that. Like we had guys that had been in the Navy. They were called, like, what were they called? Fleet returnees or something like that. It was basically guys that had been in the regular Navy and then came to go to Buds. So they were like E4s or E5s or something like that. So they were petty officers, so they outranked me. So in the military, they were a higher rank than me, but they were also just students going through Buds. You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
I
yeah.
didn't like, I showed them zero respect. I didn't give a fuck about, like, I don't give a shit. I had the worst military bearing, and because again, I had I never wanted to join the military. I thought the military was stupid. Like I thought the whole, rank thing was stupid. And just because it wasn't like not in the SEAL teams, but in the regular military, like I just thought that shit was so weak anyway. And the warrior culture I respected, but the regular Navy was not, they were not warriors to me. Sorry, no offense, warriors,
Oh,
but
no, I totally get what you mean. Yeah, I get it. So
but
that's your perspective. Yeah.
wasn't like the fact that you were in the regular Navy and you were a fucking pipe welder or some shit, and now you're going through the same thing. Like to me, we're on the same level. We're on the same playing field. You're just a student trying to make it through, buds. So am I. So, like, do not fucking come at me
Yeah.
like you're.
And that rank doesn't help you with the ability to make it through, buds, either. It's like you got
Yeah,
grit or you don't have grit, and we're gonna find
not
out who makes it through.
like if we're on that same level and you're trying to fucking like talk to me in some disrespectful manner, like I'll knock your fucking teeth down your throat, and that's the world that I came from prior to the Navy. That was one of the hardest things for me was growing up my whole life. I've fucking gotten in fistfights my entire life, and would not hesitate to fucking punch someone in the face. And
Do you
now,
remember the first night that we met?
yeah, at the Jake Paul fight.
Do you remember the guy, the guy behind us?
Yeah, there was. Yeah, I fucking hate when people just like act a
Oh, it was
fool.
amazing. I have to chime in for a second because this is my first night meeting you, and I was like, I was dating a new
Oh,
girl.
you paused.
Did I pause? Are we paused? We shouldn't be. Hello, hello. Hello,
Nope.
Mitch, you back?
Yeah.
Shouldn't be paused. Yeah, sorry. So yeah, I was dating a new girl at the time, and I'd been dating her for like a month. It was also my birthday. Jeff called me with like short notice and was like, "Hey, we're going to be in Tampa. We're taking the Aston Martin. We're driving up from Miami. You want to meet us at the Jake Paul fights? We got some really good seats from Steven Espinosa." I said, "Yeah, I'd love to do that." So we come really short notice, and there is this drunk guy behind us, and we're really close. We're like front or second row, right to the boxing match, and I'm with you. I'm with two Navy SEALs. Me and Mitch at least have been involved in combat sports for over 15 years. I competed in jiu-jitsu at a high level for a long time. And I'm usually the one who will assert. But in that situation, I'm like, God, this is like my first outing with this woman that I'm with. I don't really want to go down this route. And there's this guy behind us, and he was ruining everyone's experience. He was being so loud. He was screaming top of his lungs. He was very confident in himself. What the boxer should be doing. He probably screamed the word jab 150 times as if the boxer didn't know to throw a jab. And he just kept screaming. And it was really ruining everyone's time. The women around us were really starting to like kind of cringe their bodies. And they're like, they'd look back like, God, like you're just being so loud now. There's like spit flying out. He's behind us. And I'm looking around. I'm like, so how are we going to go about this? And I thought for a moment, I was like, man, should I say something to this guy? And it's funny because my second guess was, maybe in Jeff and Mitch's world, who I respected you guys immensely as Navy SEALs, I was like, I don't want to be the guy who does this. And I'm like, what the fuck, Tony? So I was like, I'm just going to sit quiet and just deal with this. And I told the girls, I was like, hey, just ignore this guy. Next thing you know, Mitch turns around and Mitch is like it was a matter of 45 seconds of words. And the guy was like, okay. And he like sat his ass down and kept quiet. And it's like, that's the beauty of having that. One, Mitch has been in fights. Two, Mitch has been through shit. And so with verbal, you're able to communicate to him like, yo, bro, I am not the one. And I'm going to give you a free pass here. And I loved that situation because it wasn't a fight. It wasn't anything physical. It was just you looking at him and be like, yo, bro, like, shut the fuck up. They know what they're doing. And I think I was like, okay, and sat quiet. So I just had to tell that story because I loved it so much. And I was like, oh, I got Mitch is cool. I like that.
I remember he was saying he was I remember when I turned around and told him and it wasn't polite really, like you're it was a direct order essentially, like and a choice, hey, shut the fuck up or I'm going to shut you the fuck up. And and then he's like, oh, I was a boxing coach or boxer or whatever the fuck. And I'm like, cool, bro. I'm a fucking pro MMA fighter. Do you want to keep going? Yeah. Like
they have a coach ringside with them. Yeah. I think I remember at one point you're like, yeah, I think they have their own fucking coaches, dude. Like they got this. Like let their own coaches coach them, which is so true. it was just a drunken guy, but it's like those
You know,
moments are so
like,
important
you
because,
are ruining everyone's fucking experience
and that's
here.
what I was saying. That was so important about this because I don't know if you remember also who was down the road for us. There was a famous porn star named Brandy Love that was on our row too, sitting on right on the other side of me. And like when he finally sat quiet, everyone like looks over at the group and Mitch and like, thank you, because everyone could enjoy their night again. And that's kind of the beauty of what the martial arts background gives you is like, verse says if you're a complete beta male, you would never say a word to a guy like that who was drunk and loud and seemed confident. On the same other side, if you're like the side of like a super aggressive, you would just turn around and start hitting him without even having a word. But it's like there's this beautiful middle ground where you're like, hey, we're all having a great night. Friends are out. We're just enjoying this evening. I can assert myself on you verbally, let you know that I'm not afraid to assert myself physically, but it has no need to go there. And then everything worked out great. Everyone could enjoy the night. We had a great rest of the night. We had fun. We laughed. You know, it was a good time to see that. And that's something I always talk about. Like the beauty of training is that you never have to fight.
No,
Was
it's
that?
peace through.
Yes, dude. Peace through strength. Exactly. It's like,
violent hippie way, you know, be kind or else.
yeah, I love that. I saw a quote the other day. It said, if you knew the violence that it took for me to be this peaceful. And I was like, yeah, that is so true. Like to be able to just tolerate and take, right? And then you think back to you, like the stuff you went through, flashbang growing off and machine guns being fired off and going through hell week and getting punched in the face. And then when you're in a moment where there's just some guy like yelling at you, you're like, bro, like it doesn't even raise my stress level. You know, I can still talk to you normally, like, dude, you know, so it is so true. Human beings come in all cuts and walks of life. And that's why some people are able to just handle so much more. And as we segue into that, what I want to ask you about is how has what you've gone through in combat and especially the military segued itself into entrepreneurship?
Um, I,
Like the better
I,
question would be, did you or attributes that you learned, or what attributes you think that you learned through that first life you had are effective and strengthening you now in the entrepreneurial season of life?
well, I would say the military or just my experiences in the military definitely it taught me, or it didn't teach me, but it gave me the opportunity to endure suck, you know, and to to just keep going when things are really shitty. And you know, life will inevitably become very hard at times, and you will be forced to endure really shitty situations. And that, you know, you have, that will either break you or you will overcome it. And you know, it gave me the opportunity to willingly endure really shitty, really hard situations. And you know, so I was consciously suffering, you know, I was choosing to endure it. And that, like anything, mental toughness is like anything, it's perishable. And it requires practice. It requires, you know, like you have to practice anything in order to be good at it, you know. And so I got a lot of practice at enduring shitty situations. And business, you know, entrepreneurship, you are going to you are going to come across some really shitty situations and
Oh yeah.
things that, like, at least in my experience, a lot of things that are out of my control. And I have to just endure or be patient. And you know, like, it can be extremely stressful, and you have to keep your composure and keep going. Because if you just get, like, you can get so stressed out or frustrated that you just quit. And or get emotional and make really terrible decisions. So I would say that experience of just dealing with extremely difficult situations and really stressful and shitty experiences, that gave me essentially the practice and experience that I needed to endure a lot of the stressful and shitty situations I've come across in entrepreneurship, that had I not had those previous experiences, I might have just been like, you know what, this isn't worth it, and just quit.
Yeah, I
Because
agree with that.
I've been I'll tell you this right now, I was way less stressed in Afghanistan in combat in the SEAL teams than I have been with my business at times. And that is no exaggeration. Like,
But is it because you have people depending on you as like staff, or what do you think is the difference in that?
No,
Like, I
it's
think
like,
for me, I take a lot of ownership of the fact, I don't know how big your team is. I have 13 employees in my business. And so as the team's grown, that used to be just 2, and now we've got 13. So now when we do if we have like a slow week, now most oftentimes if we look at things month to month, it's continuing to increase. But if we have like a slow week, it's like, oh no, like, how is this going to affect? What if I have to let someone go? I start thinking the stress of the people that I'm responsible for in the business. Does it come up that with you too?
for sure. And it's more like frustrating when you have to rely on outside sources, like, like for instance, for me, manufacturing my supplements, I don't manufacture them myself. I pay a company to manufacture my product, and then I need to get that product from them, and then once it's in my hands, then I need to get it to my customers, and manufacturing issues, like relying on other people that, to do their job or whatever. It's that was the most extremely frustrating, or has been the most extremely frustrating part of my business experience. And, where it's like, I've done everything that I'm supposed to do, and I'm relying on these people to
Yeah,
do,
to meet this deadline, meet this quality standard, and
and
deliver.
and yeah, I have a whole team of people who get salaries and rely on me and to feed their children and pay their mortgage and all this stuff. And it's it, it I have to pay them every payday, and I need product to sell to have that money to pay them, so like there's been a lot of situations where, people I'm relying on have dropped the ball, and, don't have a sense of urgency or give a shit, and I'm kind of at their mercy. And that's been
Yeah,
beyond,
that's hard.
and then with
Good.
COVID and everything like that, and
Yeah,
everyone
yeah,
using as an excuse for everything. And like, man, that's been the absolute most difficult part of transitioning from the SEAL teams to the real world or whatever. Is I also went into the SEAL teams right out of high school, and the standard is extremely high, and there's no tolerance, for incompetency or laziness or anything like that. The excellence is the only acceptable standard. So you get used to dealing with that. Like, that's something that you kind of take for granted when you're in, is that you're dealing with, like, even the lowest guy in the SEAL teams is still extremely, driven and motivated and disciplined in comparison to the real world or
that's it,
regular world.
100%. Something I think I've noticed so much and like, obviously you might have the same logic. You're from the SEALs team. I read Jocko Willink's book called Extreme Ownership years ago when it first came out. And running a business, I'm 38 years old. I have a daughter that's 4 years old. And it's another level of like ownership and responsibility I'll take for everything in my life. Like, I do blame myself for every single thing. If one of my shooters knocks over a $1,000 egg at a client's house and breaks it, it's going to come back on me as a company owner. So I've learned to do that. And something I think I've learned in so many, whether it's client, vendors, employees, et cetera, it's like a lot of people have a really hard time taking ownership and going, hey, it was me. I fucked up. Like, I'm going to get better. It's like they just blame this. Oh, COVID. Oh, this. Oh, that. This guy. But it's like, at what point is it on you? Because if it's always on someone else, how does it ever get fixed? Like,
Well,
it has to get fixed when you blame yourself and take ownership.
that stems from the Navy SEAL culture, and at Buds, it starts very early on at Buds. There is no coddling. There is no, hey, let's pull this guy aside and, tell him how
Right.
he messed up and all this shit. No, it's scorn you in public,
In
in
front of
front
everyone.
of, and it's like, we're going to make you feel like a fucking idiot, and use you as an example for everyone to learn from. And it's like, it puts incentive on, like, you, when you're in that environment, you're like, fuck, I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be like publicly shamed and humiliated or whatever. And then, like, not only you feel fucking dumb when it is
Mhm.
you, and you've got all these eyes on you or whatever, and it makes you like, I will never fucking do that
Yeah.
again. Or
Makes you not want to experience
yeah,
that reality again. Right.
dude, I don't want to let people down. And the thing is, with the SEAL teams, all the lessons learned are written in blood. So there's a level of seriousness there. Also, and that there is no excuses. There's no whatever. You fucked up, you own it, you fix it, and you don't let it happen again. And everyone else hopefully learns from your mistakes, and so that they don't make the same mistake either. And that
Huge.
just kind of
Huge.
drives excellence, because that's the standard. And nobody wants to be that guy. Nobody wants to be the reason why the mission failed, or someone died, or something got fucked up. And so there, and not just that, but in Buds, it's like, so not only are we gonna shame you and all this shit, but we're also gonna fucking make everyone pay for your
So
mistake.
everyone's paying for you. Oh yeah. And then you really feel it.
Yeah.
Then you're like, shit, I did this to everyone.
Yeah, everything is on full display. Everything is there is no coddling. There's no fucking like behind closed doors, have a talk. It's all out in the open, and it's everyone holds everyone accountable. And so it's just an extreme kind of cutthroat environment.
Huge, man. So what do you guys have happening right now? Massive, like what, any new products in the line? Anything you're pushing? What's been your most successful product? I'm gonna assume it's been the greens, but
Yeah.
like
Green,
where's your focus in the business right now?
the greens have for sure been our number one seller from day one, and they still are to this day. Our smashing reds are our number two seller, and then following with our fasting kits.
Hmm.
So we're actually launching today. Um, so it's funny, we just sold out of our reds, and we have a new formula of smashing reds coming out, um, that is in production and going through all the hoops that we have to jump through to get our new reds. Are going to be USDA certified organic, and they're also so we're having them go through the process of all that right now, being manufactured. But we just lowered the price of, and this is so annoying to me, is everybody, I saw it across the nation, everyone has, where all the rumors of inflation are around. So then all these companies just preemptively raise their prices, and just they have a built-in excuse of, oh yeah, we're just going to blame inflation. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And I just don't, I fuck, that pisses me off, because I'm like, when everyone does that, it's just going to make everything worse.
word. Yeah, it makes the customer not be able to get their product they were loving.
Well, and it's like, everyone in our society, all the businesses are just pass it on to the consumer, pass it on to the consumer, and it's like, dude,
True.
I did not come from money. I did not come from anything. I grew up in a fucking single wide trailer. No one in my family has money. So then I create this successful company, and now all of a sudden I have money. So I have a whole nother perspective of money. And, and I take care like of my whole team. Everyone makes great money. Everyone lives comfortably. I live super comfortably, and I still have plenty of money to spare, and I'm like, okay, so yes, all of my costs went up of my materials and everything like that. But everything in a business, you make a profit margin, right? Like you still make money. So I'm like, okay, so is the person that works this regular job where they are making X amount for their time, those people are not wealthy, you know? And like, so I'm going to pass on this to that person who barely has enough money as it is to live, and or could I just take a little bit less profit? And,
That's huge, man.
I can take that hit, and it's like maybe, and I get it because, I've experienced that my entire career in the supplement world. I had no idea what the supplement world was like or anything like that. So I didn't understand how fucking ridiculous and insane markups are. I've never owned a business, so I've always been a consumer. Now I'm on the other side of that and I see how fucking ridiculous everything is. And I'm like, wow, this is insane, you know? And
Yeah,
so,
you start to have a different lens for the world the
yeah.
more you get into running a business. Now you understand every business. Like you look at
And you
every
see how
business
fucking
everywhere.
greedy people are.
Yeah. So what do you? But the point is, you're lowering the price for the reds. Oh, I think we froze here for a sec. But having some weird technical difficulties today, guys. I do apologize for that. And he's back. So you said you're lowering the price on the reds.
No, I didn't say that. I said we have
Oh,
a new form coming out. And so, but what I said was, I see all this shit where my costs of everything went up,
I
but
see. So you're not raising the price because of
I'm
it.
not raising the price of them. So
Right.
I just took less of a profit, and I get that, like at when you're doing things in bulk, right? Like when I'm ordering 10,000 units at a time, like $4 on a formula is $40,000 in the grand, when that's all said and done. But it's like it's 40,000 less that you never had in the first place. So it's not that big a deal to me. That's
Yep.
kind of how I look at it. And
What is in the reds, by the way? What a reds? I think of beets. And I
yeah,
know I have them here. I take them before as a pre-workout. I actually
beets.
take the reds before I do my boxing sessions. I love it. But yeah, besides beets, what is it?
Yeah, beets. We have beets, pomegranate, raspberry, pumpkin, uh, pomegranate, turmeric, ginger.
Anti-inflammatories and blood
Yeah,
circulation.
a lot of
Yeah.
anti-inflammatory, cardiovascular health,
Mhm.
sexual performance health. You know, yeah, gotta, yeah,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
important. I make these
I love
products for my to use as well.
Yeah, yeah. And then also we'll start. We'll end up with this too. What you've built there, massive, is so cool. When I if you guys all don't follow Mitch's social media, we'll have it all tagged below. But you've got a hub there. You've got a place. So you've got. Tell us about your HQ. What do you have going on there? What kind of culture do you have at that? Are you there now?
Yeah,
Yeah. So tell us about what you built there.
yeah. So I opened up my HQ and we have my storefront, for people to just customers to come to our actual location, try samples of our products and everything like that. We have all free samples of everything here. I also have my podcast studio here. I've got my office space here where my employees, my team, work from. This is also Adopt a Cop BJJ, my charity's headquarters. So we have our office for that here, and then in the back, we originally, this was our warehouse where we stored all of our supplements and shipped them from as well. But then we actually outgrew the warehouse and needed a larger facility. So that's why I was actually in Tampa to
Looking. Yep. Yep.
move the facility down there. So now all of our supplements, or the majority of our supplements, are in Tampa at a warehouse there, and we fulfill from there. So once that happened, I had this big warehouse in the back that was just empty now. So then I changed that I made it like my personal gym. So we have a full weightlifting gym with everything you need, and then I had mat space, and everything. And it was just like, it's a really awesome setup and everything. And I
So
was like,
cool.
man,
I agree.
this is, it was just my personal gym, and I was
Yeah.
like, well, I can share this with people.
Yeah. Well, you need training partners too. We've got one more technical difficulty here. In the spirit of ownership, I will take ownership for the connection, but I do want to go ahead and say it's probably because Mitch is on a phone is what is happening. But
Uh,
he's back. But you need bodies to train with. So obviously, like you got to invite people in because that's something we always say. Like in jiu-jitsu, you can't shadow box. You can't really shadow roll. Like you need someone to strangle. And like
yeah. So I had this badass, awesome gym, basically to myself. And I was like, all right, I think I'm going to share this with people. And, I'm a black belt in jujitsu as well. And I was like, you know what, maybe I'll teach, some of my staff and jujitsu. So then I made it mandatory for my staff to do jujitsu twice a week.
I
And,
love that.
um, I already gave them, like, they're all allowed to work out on the clock and everything like that, because physical fitness is very important. And, I don't think we should be a supplement company that, particularly like preaches about health and being fit and have fat employees. It's just not a
Agreed.
good look.
I agree
So,
very much.
so all of my employees get to work out, on the clock. That's something, just a benefit that they have. And then I made it mandatory that they do jujitsu twice a week. And so and that was also for me too, to practice, teaching, because my whole MMA and jujitsu career, I've been a competitor, and that's different than teaching,
Sure.
being a professor. And, just because I know how to do an armbar doesn't mean that I necessarily know how to explain it to someone who doesn't know it, how to do an armbar step
Yeah,
by
agreed.
step, and have every detail in there and explain every detail and why it's important. And, that's a whole other beast in itself.
Yeah, I
And
agree. It's hard actually. Teaching's challenging. When I was competing a lot, and so then I was offered an opportunity to teach at the academy, my coach's academy. And when I was teaching and training, what I realized was I was like, it was some of the like I was losing momentum in my training. And so I taught for 2 years, and then I actually was like, hey, like training, competing is my thing. So I had to leave the role of teaching because I realized it's very hard to do both. When you're giving everything to your students, you have to like enter that identity. And it's hard to, like, if you're trying to compete and train all the time and do both. So when I stopped and I went back to just being a student again, I felt this huge weight lifted, but I'm like, and I was actually really good at teaching. I was always told that. And I love to explain things in detail. It's very technical, but it is a different beast in itself, as I'm sure you're seeing.
yeah, it is. And it's so I did that for a while, just to kind of like, all right, get a feel for teaching and this and that. And then I started to enjoy it when, it's got its own different rewarding. It's rewarding in its own way.
Yeah,
You see your students grasp the concepts that, you're teaching them. And then when you see them actually implement them and implement them correctly, and then they start to have success against other people or whatever, and it's kind of like you get to share that with them. It's like
right.
you
Oh yeah, yeah.
see them get all excited because they did the sweep and they remembered all the steps and it worked correctly, and now they're in mount and they're like
Dude.
looking to you. It's like your little children, your little
Oh,
jiu-jitsu children.
100%. Well, I say that there's that magical moment where it's like, if you're training in a room and everyone's getting good together, you won't feel that you're learning anything because we're all learning at the same time. But then when that brand new guy comes in and you get to roll with him and you hit like a bump sweep, or you were able to hit like an arm drag to a back take and just get a choke, and it just happens effortlessly because they're brand new and you're 6 months in, there's just like, boom. If you can make it to that point, you'll never stop training because you're like, whoa.
Well, it's
That's
funny.
what this gives me in 6 months. I can be a superhuman if I do this for 6 years,
Yeah, and I tell people like that come in, you know, on like their 10th lesson, I'll be like, "All right, what do you think like day 1, do you think day 1 version of you would be
Yeah.
able to do anything against this version of you?" And they're like, "Oh,
Oh,
absolutely not. Fucking
100%. Yeah, it's amazing. Jiu-Jitsu is an
up."
amazing vessel for personal development, and it goes way beyond the realms of just physical confidence. It goes everywhere. And like I have a boxing coach now as a pro boxer, and that's what I've been working on mostly is striking. So I still roll every now and then, but 17 years of jiu-jitsu kind of banged my body up, and I got through enough where I realized like, hey, if I just keep myself maintenance wise, I'll be okay for personal protection reasons. I'm not going to be competing in a world championship level anymore. And so I work on boxing twice a week now with the coach. And something I was explaining to him that I think jiu-jitsu is so different, where it's like I'm feeling really good with my hands now. Like I'm starting to feel like I'm trying to avoid, Mitch, my best to be that guy that shadow boxes for no reason in public. But it's like it just, like my hands just they want to move, and I'm in public, and I'm like, don't do that. And you feel confident. Like I feel very confident to touch someone now. But jiu-jitsu gives you a very different level of calm confidence up close. So like if there's that pre-fight conversation that needs to happen, or just a conversation in general, jiu-jitsu takes away the barrier for physical intimacy. So you just are so used to that. Like me and you rolled, and I spent a week with you up there. We'd be so up close and personal. We'd be touching each other, feeling each other's breathing. You get a sense for someone. So now you're no longer weirded out by that, and you're no longer uncomfortable close with someone. So if you're
Yeah.
like going to talk to them, be like, hey, Lynn, go ahead. You say on that.
No, you're good. Yeah, jiu-jitsu to me is just so much more dimensional than striking. And like you can do 6 months of striking, boxing or whatever with a coach, and you'll be pretty fucking like competent at like striking and punching someone or whatever. Like you can be a decent striker within 6 months of training every day. And in jujitsu, training every day for 6 months, you're just a fucking white belt,
So
like,
true. I agree. I mean, I will say, just to caveat that for the listeners of the podcast, I'm very glad I did it in the order I did it, where I spent 17 years in jiu-jitsu, and now I'm adding the icing to the cake of make myself hard to hit and having a good knockout punch. But I
uh,
wouldn't suggest the other way around.
100%, man. And I try and fucking tell people like all the time, you have these strikers that just, they don't want to do jujitsu, and or they shy away from it, or because the thing is, jujitsu, you have to be okay with sucking for a long time. You have to
Yeah.
be okay with losing constantly and
For a
being,
long round, too. Like you could be mounted at 1:30, and the round's 8 minutes long, and you're like, fuck, this shit's
yeah,
not getting, I
have to
can't just
be
separate from this
do
guy.
it
Yeah.
and suck. You have to be willing to and keep a good attitude, and like know that like jujitsu is so far from instant gratification. It's you have to put in
Yeah.
the
Well,
long,
that's why the stats. It's
huh?
2%. The stats are 2% that make it to black belt. And that's an incredible number when you really think about it. Like it's still current. Like if out of 100% students that begin to train, 2% make it to get their black belt. And the black belt, guys, is not isn't something that you've memorized. It isn't like in a martial art where you have to memorize moves. Black belt is your level of live application on a resisting skilled opponent. So some people will never make it there, but they'll still continue to train. Some people will die a purple belt, and there's no shame in that, because purple belt is a very lethal human in most places in the world. But it is challenging, and it's like, well, of course, there's this cool thing I think you and I have, and I have another business owner. He's an entrepreneur in Canada, very successful in my space of real estate media. And when I was connected to him through mutual colleagues for us to do some business together, just through quick conversation, he's a jiu-jitsu brown belt. And it's like instantly we're boys for life. It's like now business is being done because it's all he needed to know. And it's like when you know someone like, yo, you've made it past purple belt, like you're a real motherfucker. Like you're not
Yeah.
someone who's just going to quit easy. So it's a rarity, and it's something that, I mean, obviously it's exploded. I think single-handedly, I don't think there's any disagreeing with this. There's one person on this planet that did more for jiu-jitsu than even the Gracies, and that's Joe Rogan. And he has just put it in such a limelight and such a mainstream. And, you know, the gyms around here in St. Pete are always packed. It's just, when I first started training, bro, there was barely anything on YouTube. I would go home and YouTube BJJ just because I was so curious, and I would find like historical little documentaries about the Gracies. I would not find techniques or live rolling videos. Now it's just everywhere. So it's really cool to see how much the martial arts taken and what you're doing up there. And is the Adopt a Cop something where you're training police officers?
So Adopt a Cop BJJ is my charity that I started maybe 2 years ago, and we pay for police officers all around the country, anywhere in the country, to join a jiu-jitsu gym, and we pay for their membership until the rank of blue belt.
That's so
And
awesome.
but it's
For most people, that's going to be about a year to 2 years that will take for most people.
Yeah, usually like it should be in about a year, you know, that you'll get your blue belt. If you're, and we have it's an attendance based sponsorship. So you have to train a minimum of 2 times per week in order to maintain your sponsorship. And we do the check-ins, like you post on Instagram that, you
How
know,
cool
that
is that, man? I've never heard of that. That's really awesome when you're doing that.
Yeah, and I mean we've had over 1,500 cops in the program. Wow. We're in all 50 states. We have over 1,000 gyms across the country that are affiliated with us, and any of the cops can go to any of those gyms and train for free. And it's we've graduated almost 170 blue belts.
That's so cool. And yeah, I mean, I can comment on that all day, but just to keep it brief, jiu-jitsu is incredibly effective for law enforcement as well. And we've seen the videos. I know I follow those pages. We met a guy actually at the Jake Paul fight that runs one of those jiu-jitsu meme pages. Do you remember? He was sitting behind us, and I still follow his account. And he reshares like things gone wrong, like where a cop tries to restrain someone and the guy gets away, or he gets the upper hand on the cop. And you look at that and you're like, man, 2 months of BJJ could have stopped that from happening.
Yeah. Every shooting video we've seen, every fucking scuffle that.
Just lost you there one more time. You back?
Yep. All right. So like every video we've seen, every scuffle gone bad, you know, every jiu-jitsu black belt out there has seen those. And we're like, if this cop only knew a blue belt level of jiu-jitsu, then this avoided. And, you know, and I think oftentimes, you know, shootings happen out of fear and, you know, a lack of experience or training or whatever, going hands-on with someone. But like you said, jiu-jitsu is such an intimate thing that you lose that. And you're so confident in your abilities to go hands-on with people, like, especially if they don't fucking train, like, you know, like anyone who doesn't train, I guarantee you feel the same way. You could be blindfolded, and if you get your hands on them, it's over. There's zero chance.
Yeah.
And
I was telling my partner the other night. Go ahead.
I do that with cops here. When I train with them, I'll literally blindfold myself and roll with them and submit them effortlessly. And I'm like, so how could you possess these skills and not be confident in your ability to go hands-on with someone? You know, totally. And that's what our you know, and if you do possess that, you're less likely to engage with your weapon. You know, you're more likely to just submit them and control the grappling situation in a combative experience. And, you know, like whether you agree with police or support them or not, everybody wants less shootings. And, you know,
or just have an ability to physically control and pin someone better. I think that's it. Pinning, the ability just to learn how to physically pin someone down better. Like necessarily like what I think a cop should be armbarring someone. No, of course a choke would be great, but they could also say, oh, you tried to kill him. But it'd be very easy to take someone's back or mount them and pin them and control them. You know, something that went viral for my jiu-jitsu team years ago, that was the biggest ad for my business, my coach's business ever. And my coach is a very successful jiu-jitsu black belt, world champion, gi and no gi, has 2 gyms, and he's got over about 400 students. So he's done a lot in the world of jiu-jitsu where we're from. But this one thing happened that was like the biggest thing ever, where one of our students who was a blue belt and a competitor at the time was a tile installer. And he was eating lunch in his van at 7-Eleven, eating one of those cold gas station sandwiches, and saw some dude tried to carjack a 75-year-old man. and there was a scuffle, tries to pull him his car. He gets out, runs over, takes the guy down, chokes him out, and was able to completely calmly, while back taken, choke in, say, someone called the cops, I'm going to hold him till they get here. And he held the dude, and the guy would try to struggle, just put him back to sleep again until he got there. So the news came in, this huge thing about that. And the way he interviewed was so funny. He's like, man, that was easy. We do that shit every night, every Wednesday, Thursday. It was just this huge thing where you realized no punches, no blood, no huge scuffle, was all just positional control. I definitely think law enforcement could benefit from more of that, So what you're doing is huge with Adopt a Cop. Mitch, where can people find out more about that too?
At adoptacopbjj.org.
That's amazing. I'm going to look that up when we're off this call. And as we wrap up, Mitch, where can they find you? Go ahead and drop your tag so people can link with you on social. I know you had a social media account get banned one time because my man is a hardcore Republican that likes to say it how it is, which I agree with. But where can they find you now?
5 times. I'm on my 5th account. But my Instagram is at Mitch, MITCH _ Aguiar, AGUIAR. You can follow Massive Supplements at MASF _ supplements. And then Violent Hippie is at Violent _ Hippie, HIPPIE. And then Adopt a Cop BJJ at Adopt a Cop BJJ.
I love it.
Yeah.
Are all these places tagged in your personal Instagram as well? They can find it there?
Yeah. All those are tagged in my main page. And then also as well, the Violent Hippie Academy is my jiu-jitsu academy here in Chesapeake, Virginia. And we actually, it's free. I don't charge anybody to train. So we just, cool. I have people buy a gi and or rash guard and shorts for the no-gi, and it comes with free training. So, we've been
make a visit up there eventually. I think that'd be a cool trip. I've never actually been to Chesapeake Bay, so I would love to make it like a trip of it and, make it a fun time.
Yeah, you guys are welcome anytime. It'd be awesome to get some training in, and we could do a podcast here too.
I love it. Mitch, it's been an absolute honor, man, for sure. It's cool to see guys like you that leave one level of life and are a complete charger and just continue to charge and pave the way for others. So thank you again, my brother. It's been an honor, and you have an amazing day.
Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it. Take care.